The 1-2 pitch. Hit toward third. Castro has it. Spins, fires. A perfect game! Roy Halladay has thrown the second perfect game in Philadelphia Phillies history. He faces 27 batters. He retires all 27.
I've never seen somebody work harder. I mean, Chase Utley, of course, known for his work ethic as well, but Roy Halladay, he was a different breed and truly a one-of-a-kind individual.
He had a terrific run in Toronto, of course, but how great were Roy's first two seasons, 2010 and 11, with the Phillies?
Just to watch him, I mean, you talk about guys who are stoppers when you're struggling or, just that are going to go out there and, give you a good game. I mean, you just knew he was not going to just give you a good game. He was going to dominate. He was a show. He was a show to watch, and it all unfolded. And I have a great story from his postseason no-hitter, which was very close to being a perfect game. It was that one walk to Jay Bruce, I believe it was, wasn't it?
I think so.
Scott Rowland told me this story a couple days later. Scott said he walked in the clubhouse and he saw John Hirschbeck up there as the home plate umpire and said, "Oh, great, we're screwed." Because pitchers like it when he's behind the plate, right? So he knew that facing Roy was going to be hard enough, and then to have Hirschbeck. And at one point, people may remember, Scott struck out and then walked around the back of John Hirschbeck and said something to him before walking back to the visitor's dugout. So I asked Scott, what did you say? And he said, I just walked behind John and said, "Come on, John, give us a chance." And two batters later, I believe it was, Jay Bruce walked on a very close pitch. And funny enough, I've always thought it would be a really cool book to go through his perfect game and no-hitter with him, with Roy Halladay, and just chronicle those 2 days. Because I remember after the game, Dallas Green talking about being at Don Larson's perfect game in the playoffs when he was young. And so here was Dallas Green at both of those games. And the perspective from Scott Rowland to Dallas Green to all the other people who saw these games unfold and the greatness that we saw, I just thought would have been so awesome. And it really needed to come from, it needed to be based on Roy's experience and then told from the other perspectives. And I just thought today, gosh, that idea can never come to fruition now.
Yeah. 67 complete games in his career, 20 shutouts. He was one of those old school guys who wanted to go 8 or better yet 9 innings whenever possible.
Yeah, that seems like an eternity ago that we had guys who were doing that on a consistent basis, for sure. The game has changed quite a bit in that sense. He was just, look, there were so many names for him, but, Roy the Robot, he was a machine. He really was a machine. And, I actually commonly refer to a technique that he taught young kids that I thought was great for little leaguers. He would tell kids to, as tall as they were, to mark off a spot in front of them that far out. So if you're 5'2", you mark 5 feet 2 inches from the rubber, and that's your landing spot. And I started doing it with my son, and I've done it with several others of his friends who, they then start thinking about their legs instead of their arm when they're little. And this is something Roy Halladay would teach his kids. He was very dedicated to the youth of the sport, of course, having 2 boys that played, I'm sure played a large part of that. But, he could make a difference for young players. There was so much left to give, and that's what's so sad about this whole thing. There was so much left for him to contribute to this game, a game he just loved so much, and it really was like a punch in the gut when I heard about it. And he wasn't my best friend, and I didn't keep in touch with Roy Halladay, but, you didn't have to know him to feel this one. It really hurt.
Absolutely. Leslie Gudel, thanks very much for taking a few minutes to talk with me about the unfortunate passing of Roy Halladay. We do greatly appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ted.
Well, Chet, parting shot for you tonight?
Yeah, Bill. In the 27 hours between the news of Roy Halladay's tragic death and us doing our show this evening, I've listened to a lot of sports talk radio, read a whole bunch of articles about Doc, watched Philly Sports Talk on what used to be Comcast SportsNet the last 2 evenings, and I was blown away by the outpouring of admiration for this pitcher who really spent only 3.5 seasons pitching for the Phillies. The common themes in all of the recollections about Roy Halladay were these: focused, fierce competitor, great teammate, and then away from the field, down to earth, humble, and classy. Just a few tweets or comments you may have missed. Ryan Howard: we lost a great ball player, but an even better human being. Tampa Bay Rays manager Kevin Cash, a former teammate of Halladay's in Toronto: players often get lumped into the clique of either being a great competitor or the strongest worker, but Roy was at the top of the list for both. And I love this one, and this is the one you referred to earlier, Bill. It was actually from Dodgers pitcher Brandon McCarthy. He said, Roy Halladay was your favorite player's favorite player. Although I never met Roy Halladay, I was deeply saddened by the news of his passing, especially knowing that he left behind a wife and 2 sons who will never see their husband and father again. Yeah, he died while doing something he loved in recent years, flying, but that doesn't make his departure any easier to take for the rest of us. Rest in peace, Roy Halladay.